Welcome back. The news in details. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from the U.S. counterpart, Joe Biden, on Monday. Presidential spokesman Ahmed Fahmy said that the phone talks tackled the outcomes of the U.S. Secretary of State's visit to Cairo and the latest regional developments and the recent escalation in the Gaza Strip. Fahmy added that President al-Sisi and the U.S. President agreed on the importance to contain the current crisis in the Gaza Strip as it threatens regional stability and security. The two leaders also agreed on boosting efforts to protect civilians and deliver humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin on Monday. Presidential spokesman Ahmed Fahmy said that the phone talks tackled the latest regional developments and the recent escalation in the Gaza Strip. Fahmy added that President al-Sisi and Russia's president stressed on the importance of solving the main reasons beyond the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and called for establishing a Palestinian state according to the international legal references. The two leaders also agreed on boosting efforts to stop violence in the Palestinian territories, protect civilians, and provide all types of humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Monday, where they tackled the latest developments in the region and the military escalation in the Gaza Strip. The two leaders reviewed Egypt's ongoing efforts to contain the crisis and stop violence in the Palestinian territories. They also discussed means of delivering humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. Also on Monday, President al-Sisi received a phone call from the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, where they discussed the latest developments in the Palestinian territories. They agreed on the importance of unifying international efforts aiming at preventing more escalation in the Gaza Strip. During the phone call, President al-Sisi reiterated Egypt's stance, which rejects collective punishment and siege policies. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Monday asserted during a meeting with the visiting French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna that the international community should provide urgent humanitarian relief to Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Presidential spokesman Ahmed Fahmy said the two sides asserted the strategic nature of the distinguished Egyptian-French relations and their long-established cooperation, notably in the economic, development and cultural fields. In addition, the meeting asserted the importance of continuous coordination and extensive consultations between Egypt and France over different political and security issues of mutual concern, notably over the escalation in the Middle East. The strong bilateral ties were reflected in several phone calls over the last week between President al-Sisi and his French counterpart, Emmanuel Macron, with the aim of maintaining security and stability both in the Middle East, the East Mediterranean, and the African continent. The two sides asserted the dangers of the military escalation in Gaza and stressed the need to prevent widening the conflict and stop attacking civilians according to international humanitarian law. The meeting was also attended by Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry stressed on Monday that Egypt is intensifying contacts to stop the military escalation in Gaza. The foreign minister made these remarks as he addressed a press conference with his French counterpart following talks in Cairo, which mainly focused on the latest developments in the Gaza Strip.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry on Monday received visiting French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna, where they discussed enhancing bilateral ties and the latest regional developments, particularly in Gaza. Addressing a press conference after the talks, Shoukry stressed that Egypt was holding intensified contacts with regional and international partners to halt the military escalation in the Gaza Strip. He reiterated Egypt's rejection for any attempts to wipe out the Palestinian cause and the necessity to intervene for barring the region from entering into a vicious circle of violence. The foreign minister also affirmed Egypt's absolute refusal of deporting Palestinians, pressing more coordinated efforts for allowing the humanitarian aid access into Gaza, halting escalation and restoring calm into the Palestinian territories. The top diplomat emphasized that since the beginning of tensions, Egypt has been seeking to open its Rafah border crossing in order to allow urgent humanitarian relief aid into the Strip, easing the suffering of Palestinians and fellow Gazans. Shukri's remarks were echoed by Francis Colonna, who urged the delivery of humanitarian aid to the bombarded Gaza Strip, meeting the needs of its residents. Colonna called for exerting more efforts to ensure that civilians in Gaza are being protected and their essential needs are met. As diplomatic overtures yield little success, France's top diplomat said that Paris welcomes Egypt's initiative for an international summit on the conflict, taking into account the Palestinians' right to an independent state.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri on Monday received a phone call from his Syrian counterpart, Faisal al-Miqdad, on the recent escalation in Gaza and the deteriorating humanitarian conditions in the besieged Strip. Shukri said the access of humanitarian aid into Gaza is an inevitable necessity amid the current worsening situation of the Strip residents. Foreign Minister Shukri received another phone call from his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, on the tense situation in Gaza. The phone conversation tackled coordinated efforts for restoring calm to the Strip and allowing humanitarian and relief aid to fellow Gazans. Egypt's top diplomat briefed his counterpart on the intensified contacts Cairo held with international partners for avoiding further escalation. Upon the directives of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Minister of Health Khaled Abdel Ghaffar headed to El Arish city in northern Sinai to follow up on the medical and first aid services to be provided through Rafah border crossing. Abdel Ghaffar has held a meeting with the ministry's deputies and heads of crises chambers and a number of governorates to follow up all the preparations. The minister is due to inspect a number of hospitals in El Arish and surrounding areas to be assured on the level of medical services and the availability of enough storage of medications, medical equipment and blood types. He will also inspect the ambulance points and mobile clinics located in El Arish area. Hamas government Welcome back. Egypt's stock market indices collectively went up in the trading session on Monday after selective purchasing operations by local and Arab investment funds reached high rates and exceeded profit-making selling operations by foreign investors. The benchmark EGX30 index jumped by 3.48% to close above 21,032.35 points for the first time ever. The EGX70 index for small and medium businesses also rose 1.5%. And the broader EGX100 index also jumped by 2.37%. Meanwhile, the market capital of listed companies gained 61 billion Egyptian pounds to close at 1,445 billion amid transactions of about 14.2 billion pounds.